ladies and gentlemen, game week 9's in the books. And some people had a pretty average week. But then there are other people who struggled this week. And when I say struggled, they really, really struggled. And as you can hear, it's really hard for me to bring this up. James, how are we feeling about this week? Do you have an idea of what your record might be? You've been a football fan for how long? What was your degree in? What do you do for work? I'll give you a minute.
Jack, I used to be a bit of a gambler. There's a reason why I lost a lot of my money.
Yep.
There's a reason why. I'm just good at analysing.
Yeah, you and me both. But anyway, guys, it was a rough week for James. My record, 5-5 for the week. James, 2-8. Man, we were talking about
the channel down, Jack. I let the channel down.
We were talking about 7 disagreements. Do you remember? There were 7 disagreements that week. Now me, again, I've been super consistent but super average. I'm trying to get back to over 500. James is just trying to battle a free fall right now. James's correct results were the Everton game and then also getting the Leicester Forest game, which is one we disagreed on. But again, across the board, lots of letdowns. Calling Manchester United to win was especially egregious. The overall record, I'm 39-41 now, so I'm still trying to get back up to that 500 mark. James, 32-48. You got to have some seriously strong weeks to get back up. What I will say though, that was only game week 9, right? So we're still doing okay. Actually, I want to make sure that I'm in the right game week here. I might have been saying this wrong the whole time. Anyway, moving on to the next round of games, James. Bournemouth at home against Leicester City. I will start. I'm happy to start. I think that Leicester win, James, and how emphatic that was, I think that's going to give some juice to this Leicester team. I think that with Brendan Rodgers, I think that there is always going to be some upside. We've seen what they've been able to do historically, and we know the players we have. You know my criticism. The front office has really let them down here. The contract situation of a lot of players, the recruitment or lack thereof has been problematic over the summer. But I think that win will do something for this team. James Maddison looked great, looked motivated. Harvey Barnes, right? If we can get Patson Daka firing and all this kind of stuff, we can go forward. So to me, Leicester 2, Bournemouth 0. Who have you got in that one?
Jack, I agree with you there. This is one of the games I was able to get right. So I'm gonna pat myself on the back for that one.
Good feel for Leicester.
Jack, we're critical of Leicester because we know the quality that they have. You know, you can't have players like Wilfred Ndidi, Jamie Vardy, James Maddison there, you know, Yuri Tielemans there. We know the quality is there. I'm just disappointed to see where they've been this season. Again, Bournemouth been up and down. I don't think that they've been as bad as we made them out to be this season. But Jack, I'm just gonna stay like you. I'm gonna ride with Leicester. And you said 2-0. I'm going to say, let's say 3-1 Leicester, Jack.
3-1 Leicester. Yeah, I like it. Let the home team getting a goal. I can't blame you there. James, going over to West London, though. Going over to Stamford Bridge with a pretty big win over Milan this midweek. Chelsea at home against Wolverhampton Wanderers, who potentially for the weekend might be welcoming Julian Lopetegui, who was just fired from Sevilla. He is the one who is favourite to take over. Chelsea versus Wolves, who have you got? Diego Costa homecoming as well.
In the last 4 games, Chelsea have struggled. They failed to win in the last 4, and they failed to win in the last 4. And Wolves actually are 3-1, so 1 win, 3 draws against Chelsea. But to be fair, Pars came in and has made a difference. You know, Chelsea against Crystal Palace, they did what they did last year. You know, bit of a seesaw game and them getting a 90-minute goal. What a goal from Conor Gallagher, but I'm going to stick with another kind of honeymoon period thing for Chelsea where, like, the ball is still rolling and they're still winning games. I'm going to say I'm going to stick with the 3-1 again. I'm going to say 3-1 Chelsea. The Diego Costa coming back might be something spicy there, but I'm going to stick with 3-1 Chelsea, Jack.
Yeah, I got the same one. I just have Wolves not scoring. 3-0 for me in that one. Yeah, look, Aubameyang looks settled. That's my kind of main takeaway. Chelsea obviously struggle in the number 9 position and have done basically since Didier Drogba, Diego Costa, those kinds of guys have been and gone over the years. But I think with Aubameyang, he looks comfortable now. I think we're going to see a reinvigorated group of players across the board with Graham Potter, a new voice and all that kind of stuff, I still have my reservations about Chelsea. It's still why I'm not willing to put them kind of convincingly in the top 4 yet in terms of a prediction. But against this Wolves team, James, this Wolves team are missing the cherry on top. But the cherry on top in football is the most important part, and that's the goal scorer, the guy who's going to actually win you games. Wolves will be hard to beat, but talented, all this kind of stuff, but Chelsea way too much, especially at home. So I have Chelsea 3-0. City Southampton, City 5, Saints 0. Especially in the Premier League, there's no way I'm betting against this City team. I mean, every single week we know that a Newcastle result is there potentially, right? We know that there's going to be, we saw them let Manchester United make that scoreline look more respectable than it should have been, over this past weekend as well. So I'm not ruling that out, but there's going to be, I kind of don't really care about what score I pick, because I'm just going to pick City to win, and they'll either score more or they'll score less. So I'm saying 5-0 City against Saints, especially at the Etihad. What have you got?
Jack, the last 2 games for Southampton against Manchester City, they were able to get 2 draws, which is very, very impressive for them. But as you mentioned, Jack, Man City look too irresistible right now. We know what Erling Haaland's going to do. I feel like teams coming to the Etihad struggle because the fact of, like, they got Erling Haaland in the box. If you sit back and the balls are flying across the box, at some point the guy's going to get his toe, head, whatever to it. So I'm going to say, just like him, I'm going to stick with 5-0 Manchester City.
Okay, James, next up, Newcastle. Brentford coming to town. I found this one really, really tricky to do. I didn't just throw a scoreline in and have a gut reaction. I had to think about this one a bit. What have you got for this one?
This one's a very, very tough one. As I said, two teams who kind of like Premier League favourites in a way. Teams that when even top teams are against, you're always like, ooh, with a certain type of players there. You look at Newcastle with players like Bruno Guimaraes and St. Maximum. You look at what Brentford has with a player like Ivan Toney there. So teams who you always worry about, like when big teams get them in. Again, another even game, but Newcastle got a big victory the other day. A bit of a shock one, because I don't think neither of them we had Newcastle winning at all. Like, I think it was a 4-1 against Fulham. I'm going to say that they're going to ride this momentum, Jack, and I'm going to say it's going to be 2-1 Newcastle.
I respect it. This is going to be our first disagreement. I got this one as 2-2. I just think Brentford, for whatever reason, they're plucky, aren't they? They're a tough team to play against. And one thing we know, I know you've just said you think it might be a turning point, but for me, I think Newcastle love a draw. And I think there's going to be space for Ivan Toney to do his thing. We know how big that Newcastle defensive line is. I think Ivan Toney's going to be able to get in and around them and will take his opportunities. So 2-2 for me in that one. Moving over to the South Coast, a really, really interesting game in my opinion. This one I'm going to have my eye on. Brighton and Hove Albion are at home against Spurs. I'm going to take this as 1-1. I'm going to say that, I don't know, maybe a bit of damage to the confidence of the Spurs team for Antonio Conte. I don't know what the turnaround's going to look like here. James, we know the life expectancy of an Antonio Conte coaching role as well. Now, again, I'm not saying the cracks are going to start appearing now, but I'm just saying I wouldn't rule it out. So again, I think this Brighton team are really good. We've seen that the Graham Potter leaving hasn't actually changed a whole bunch at all. So for me, I'm looking at this as a 1-1. I think Spurs will take their chance, but I can see Brighton kind of not dominating the game, but like we talked about with the Arsenal game, can I see Brighton having more possession, shots on target, passes, etc. So yeah, I can. And then Spurs will just have to see how they do on the break with those lethal attackers. So 1-1 for me.
I was going to listen to you and say 1-1, but we got to disagree on some things. And I look at Tottenham and a team who haven't been great this year, but somehow they get their wins here and there. They got their Arsenals handed to them against Arsenal. Yeah, we like to hear that. Yeah. But I think Tottenham might bounce back this week. Yeah, what Brighton did against Liverpool was fantastic, and I probably want to lean towards a Brighton victory or a loss. But I just look at Tottenham in the way they are, especially away from home, and they can have a bit more license to kind of sit back a little bit. And we know what happens when they have room in behind. Now Brighton don't have the quality Arsenal have, and can't really pin Tottenham back the way Arsenal were. We know what's like when Tottenham gets on a break. Dusan Kulusevski is missing for Tottenham, and I really do think that's a big move. Because what he brings for Tottenham, that especially that decision making in the final, so that ability to beat a player 1v1, they're missing there, and I'm not sure he's going to be fit in time. But I think Tottenham are going to win this game, and I'm going to say 2-1 Tottenham.
2-1 Tottenham, I like it. James, you again, Palace at home against Leeds United.
Leeds, fair play to them getting the draw against Villa in the game that they probably should have lost, being a man down, but they were able to hang in there. Crystal Palace are a team that I fancy a lot, and to be fair, when you look at head-to-head, Crystal Palace, Leeds are actually winning their head-to-head, and looking at it, and to be fair, in the last 3 games, Leeds have won 2 and drawn 1, so they have kind of got the edge against Crystal Palace in the past few times they played. But I'm going to say this is going to be a Crystal Palace win. I'm going to say 1-0 Crystal Palace.
1-0, I got 2-1. Much the same reasons. I just like this Palace team. I like Patrick Vieira, and again, I know that there are a lot more of the Palace players who are capable of pulling something out of nothing than the Leeds players that are. Again, I like Jesse Marsch. I've kind of held my hands up and said that I was definitely too critical of him, and I think he's done a much better job than I expected him to. I've just got too much faith in this Palace team going forward. And again, I think that if they had a better infrastructure, more money to spend on players, I think that this team, this setup here with Patrick Vieira could go on to do great things. But within what they have, I think they're getting as much as they can out of it. So yeah, 2-1 for me there. West Ham, Fulham, one of the many London derbies that we're starting to see, especially with the re-inclusion of Brentford and Fulham into the Premier League here. But yeah, West Ham versus Fulham. West Ham 2-0. James, I just got the sense over the course of last weekend that I think West Ham have turned a corner a little bit. Again, I think we're going to start seeing Gianluca Scamacca playing more. I think the Lucas Paqueta, he's going to feel a lot more comfortable and ready to go as well. So for me, I'm going to go 2-0 West Ham against Fulham. And I think that Fulham, we might start see slowing down a little bit. That result against Newcastle was a bit of a red flag in my opinion. And maybe that will be compounded by having to go away to East London. What have you got, West Ham, Fulham?
West Ham had a big victory against Wolves, one that I had my doubts, and they were able to pull that out of their back. You mentioned Scamacca. Jack, we said he is a class act. He's a big striker, but has that sort of Dimmer Talberger top of finesse and touch to him. Took his goal there, and I do believe that he's going to be a big part of it. I think it's a battle of the strikers. You got Mitrovic at one end, and you got Scamacca at the other end, and I just think the overall quality of West Ham is going to come through. West Ham have played a lot of home games this year. I'm going to say 2-1 West Ham, Jack.
2-1 West Ham. I like it. James. North London. Big Red coming to town. Big Red versus Big Red. Arsenal, Liverpool. I'm going to let you take this one away. I've got my score. I've got my kind of game here. It's actually a very, very tough game to call, especially because of how Arsenal have done in bigger games and how Liverpool have done just generally this season, and also in big games, especially that it's not at Anfield as well. I just want to know which way you're leaning here, because I think we might disagree.
It doesn't, if I'm looking at recent fixtures, it doesn't look good for Arsenal. Let me just read out it. 2-0 Liverpool, 4-0 Liverpool, 3-0 Liverpool, 3-1 Liverpool, and I also got a 2-1 win, and that was during the COVID period when Liverpool already clinched the title. But prior to that, Jack, it's just pure dominance by Liverpool. But Arsenal turned the corner this year. We've seen something a little bit different. I was a bit worried about Gabriel Jesus picking up a yellow card, and if he would have missed out, I definitely would have went for Liverpool here. Liverpool, you don't know where they're going, and maybe getting the victory against Rangers kind of changed the corner for them. But I'm going to back my team here, Jack.
Good for you.
I'm going to back my team. The Arsenal have gave me enough to say, you know what, James, you deserve my fight here. I'm going to say, Jack, it's going to be 3-1 to the Arsenal.
Oh, 3-1 as well. With yeah, that would be emphatic. I just went on my gut on this one, and that's what I usually do in the big games. I don't like to try and dissect it too much, because you're a tactical change, a formation change, or a big player not starting or playing out of position away from it totally changing the thought process. So I go purely on gut. James, I got Arsenal 2, but I got Liverpool 3. I just think that Liverpool can't lose another big game. I just don't. you know, the 3-3s against Brightons, the losing against Manchester United, etc. I just think that it will be kind of getting Premier League wise, we'll be in panic stations in Liverpool, I think, because James, especially if they lose this game, I can see that Jurgen Klopp should have no pressure on him whatsoever. He should be able to do whatever the hell he pleases, if I'm being totally honest there. But I just think that if he loses this game in particular, especially if an emphatic 3-1 kind of level, there's going to be a serious problem. Goals in this game. I think Arsenal will be able to get in and around Liverpool. I think we've seen that across the Premier League this season. Liverpool defensively really not at it. Offensively not overly at it as well, but I just think there'll be enough in this game to allow them to do it. I can see Liverpool potentially scoring first, maybe. Arsenal then have to come out, catching them on the break, players with speed and that kind of thing, Mo Salah, etc. Can see a high scoring game, but it'll be a fascinating watch as well, because obviously you've got Mikel Arteta as kind of a Pep Guardiola protege, right? The kind of young Padawan there. Jurgen Klopp's been against the Jedi Master for several years now in Pep Guardiola, and he knows all the tricks of the trade. So 2-3 there for me. Arsenal losing out narrowly in that one. James, moving on to the final game of the weekend. Everton, defensively stout and strong Everton, with this new centre-back partnership, which I keep talking about with Connor Cody and James Tarkowski. I think Frank Lampard has finally understood what this Everton team are going to be about, or what they need to be about, to mean that they don't get relegated this year. Welcoming Manchester United to town, who just conceded 6 goals against Manchester City. This is a get-right game for me with Manchester United. There's the individual brilliance, and there'll be enough pressure and big moments in the game that I think Manchester United will be able to take advantage of. Anthony Martial being back, I think, is huge. Takes a little pressure off of Marcus Rashford. I think if you were to ask Erik ten Hag in kind of full clarity and confidence, and without any sort of lying involved at all, who would you like as your starting striker from the beginning of the year? He would have said Anthony Martial. And now with Martial back, I think we're going to see that part of the game come through. So not a big game. I do have Everton scoring, but I think Manchester United 2-1 in this one. I just don't think that Everton will have enough to score against this team. Everton, Man United, James, who you got?
Again, let's see what happens with a player like Varane. But I look at the last 7 games of Manchester United against Everton. They've only been able to pick up 1 victory, so it's been a tough team for Manchester United to face recently. But Everton aren't a team that are very expansive, and to me, is going to outscore teams. So I'm going to give a big shout out to Alex Iwobi, who's been tremendous this season. And once we have a team of the season, team of the year prediction, he will get a mention of how good he's been for Everton. Jack. He has been that good.
Ex-Arsenal player Alex Iwobi, guys, just saying.
Also Nigerian too. So I want to big him up. Also, Jack, I've been critical of him very heavily. But you mentioned Manchester United there. Everton offensively, they're not going to do much, and you see this is going to be a game of a bunch of oohs and ahs, a bunch of half chances here and there, and you see Manchester United just taking that one from me. I'm going to say 1-0 Manchester United.
8 o'clock kickoff, Monday Night Football, Nottingham Forest at home against Aston Villa as well. That is totally my fault, guys. I'm really sorry about that. James, who have you got in that one?
Villa failed to pick up the victory against Leeds, and I think it was disappointing with the amount of chances that they had. In fact, the Leeds went down to 10 men, and it's kind of frustrating for them, and maybe them having the lack of ability to find a out-and-out goal scorer might be a problem for them. But I look at this Nottingham Forest team, Jack. For all them changes, I'm not sure if they're Premier League ready. That's
tale as old as time, mate. A tale as old as time.
That might be a thing, bringing all these players together. And I said, okay, at least the one thing I'm going to say to them, fair play to them. They went for it. They went out and tried to make sure that they're going to secure it. But we've seen it before. Fulham, when they had brought in all these players and they got relegated, bringing in players from League On and some top level players, but just to bring them in all together so soon in the Premier League where a lot of people are established, it's hard. And this seems to be the exact same thing for Nottingham Forest right now. I think the manager might be under a little bit of pressure. I'm going to say Aston Villa are going to win it. 2-1 Aston Villa.
I got 1-0, same thing. Yeah, and James Forrest, yeah, it's disappointing. It's frustrating. People don't learn from their mistakes, it doesn't seem like. And again, it's a shame because we were all excited about them coming back. I think the only real kind of proven way that we've seen for teams to come up is bring up that same squad, that same mentality, that same winning mentality, that same culture, add a couple little spots of like real talented players in key positions, and then just allow the squad to kind of do its own thing. But yeah, I've got 1-0 in that one as well, James. Yeah, across the board, we've only got a handful. 3 is the total number of differences there. So James,
Played it safe this week, guys. Sorry.
James still with work to do, but hopefully, James, we will get the magical 10-0 week at some point. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but yeah, guys, same again as with every video. Drop down in the comments. Let us know your predictions there. We don't want any criticism coming our way if we don't see yours. Why you
criticize me?
Yeah, you can criticise James about last week, but drop a like on the video as well. Please double check that you're subscribed as well. And until next time, we'll see you.